It's Sally and welcome back to my channel Sally's Craftorium. I'm so excited about this project because I want to make something like that for such a long time, and Halloween is coming up, so I thought, yeah, it's time. The idea came after I watched Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The first trial with the dragon is honestly my favorite part because, dragons. And I thought I would like to make a dragon-inspired broomstick. So today, in this video, I'm going to show you how I turned this branch into a dragon-inspired witch broomstick. So yeah, let's get crafting.
I start shaping the head from aluminium foil, gently pressing it to smooth the form. Next come the horns. I sculpt them from foil too, testing different sizes until they look dramatic enough for a proper dragon. Time to give those horns some life. I cover them with clay, carving little grooves and textures so they look like aged wood instead of bone. Once the big horns are done, I make two smaller ones for the front. Now comes the part that honestly made me the most nervous. I cover the head with clay. I never done anything like this before and definitely not on this scale. This was my first real contact with clay for something like a dragon head, so I was both excited and terrified. I left the back of the head uncovered so I could attach it later to the branch, and then I started shaping the face, carefully marking where the eyes, nose and mouth would go. To make everything look natural, I sculpted little clay bases where the horns connect, like the skin that grows around real horns, and did the same for the smaller pair. When everything's dry, I glue the horns to the head with hot glue. Next, I start the wings. I bend wire into shape, but my wire was way too thin, so I doubled it to make it sturdier. Once the base looks right, I coat the wire with clay to form the bone structure, leaving a small gap at the end so I can attach them later. When dry, I add a thin layer of clay to create the membrane of the wings, trimming away the excess. make them look alive, I prop them up with brushes and pens underneath so they dry with a natural curve. Instant depth. And now, one of my finest moments. When I decided to defy the laws of physics, I built a foil tube to attach the head to the branch, glued it, covered it with clay, went to bed proud, and woke up to a disaster. The head was way too heavy, slowly bending like a sad dragon noodle. After a brief period of panic and self-pity, I ripped it apart and did it the proper way. I cut a hole in the back of the head, filled it with an unholy amount of hot glue, and attached it directly to the branch. Miraculously, it worked. I let it dry overnight and covered the seam with clay to make it look seamless. Now the tail. I want to feel alive like two wings wrapping around the broom's grass at the end. So I shaped two tail pieces from wire, one on each side of the branch, almost like a pair of wings that would later hug the grass. Once I was happy with their curves and length, I glued the wires in place with hot glue and covered them with clay to create that bone-like texture that matches the rest of the broom. After the clay dried, I attached the two tail pieces together around the end, securing them firmly with hot glue. Now it is time for some sanding. I smooth out the branch so the pen will stick nicely. And now comes the tricky part, attaching the wings. I thread the wire through the holes I left earlier, wrap them around each other and the branch until the wings stay exactly where I want them to be. And finally, secure everything with hot glue. And now is my favorite stage, the painting. I start with a dark brown acrylic base for the deep wood tone. For the wings and tail, I blend in orange and red, giving them a fiery look. Of course, I had nothing to use for the broom's grass, so off we go. Later, I realized that the wood was way too dark, so I brushed it over with a lighter brown wash. And just like that, the broomstick was born. I sorted and trimmed the grass, grouped it into sections, and attached it to the branch using twine and hot glue. also used some decorative plants I had in the house for that magical flair, and a final wrap of twine for the finishing touch. Now I needed something to display the broomstick to my living room, and I had nothing, so I needed to create a base. I cut foam blocks to the right size, glued two together for strength, and carved out a slot for the broom's handle. After sanding the edges smooth, I added clay all around to shape it like natural wood. Using my sculpting tool, I carved details and left to dry overnight. Next morning, it is painting time. I covered it with dark brown acrylic, carefully filling every groove, then added a touch of gold along the bottom, so it feels like it's sitting in a wizard's shop window. Every witch needs a broom, but not every broom chooses a witch. Some are born out of stubborn wood and strange imagination, carrying their maker's magic in every line. This one, the Dragon Broomstick, might not fly, but it carries a spark of my madness, and I wouldn't trade that for any spell.
I want to make something like that for such a long time. You good? Yeah, you good? So today I'm going to... Carmen, did you put your name on the goblet of fire? The Grindylows. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah.